بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، فاسألوا أهل الذكر إن كنتم لا تعلمون. The first of our salawat in honor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. The second in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. The third with your loudest voices in honor of the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. The discussion concerning taqlid, or emulation or imitation of a scholar, is without a doubt one of the most important discussions within the religion of Islam, and a discussion that requires a thorough examination, for it's a discussion that affects each and every Muslim grouping in the world today. As we know, knowledge is sought, and indeed knowledge is of the utmost importance within the religion. The Muslim is expected to go out and seek knowledge, to go out and disseminate knowledge, to go out and gain knowledge. Indeed, you find it's obligatory on every Muslim male and female to go out in the world in order that they're able to gain more knowledge. Each type of knowledge and each science and each art is revered. As in, knowledge is not just limited to the Islamic sphere. A person can go out to gain knowledge in the medical sphere. A person can go out to gain knowledge in the world of the arts or the world of the humanities. You therefore find that the religion of Islam and the teachings of the religion stress the importance of going out to gain knowledge however far you have to go. As you know, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad, said, seek knowledge even if you have to go as far as China, meaning that even if you have to go to great lengths, to great extents, go and travel far and wide in order that you are able to go out and gain more knowledge. And therefore the people of knowledge are revered, no doubt. For the people who are knowledgeable are known as people of virtue and honor and dignity. They are known as the beacons of light in the community. Hence in the religion of Islam, whoever teaches you one letter becomes your master. Hence in the religion of Islam, when the people of knowledge walk into a gathering, you make space for them in that gathering. When the people of knowledge walk into a gathering, you stand up for them in that gathering. When the people of knowledge are around you, you honor the people of knowledge. You therefore find that the scholars are seen as the beacons of light within the community. When you look around you, you find that the scholars are seen as the leaders of the community. Therefore you find that the scholars can even intercede for us on the day of judgment. We know that the prophets can intercede for us. The imams can intercede for us. The shuhada can intercede for us. But likewise you find that the scholars are able to intercede for us. They're able to intercede, why? Because they've dedicated all of their life to serving us. They've dedicated their life to studying the sciences of law, the sciences of history, the sciences of theology, the sciences of spirituality, in order that they were able to give back towards the community. And that's why when a scholar dies in the community, you find that the angels cry when that scholar dies, because that person is seen as a servant of the community. Recently, however, you find that when a person is told that they should emulate a scholar or imitate a scholar in what is known as taqlid, you find that many have turned around recently and begun to question the concept of taqlid. Many have turned around recently and begun to discuss the importance of taqlid. Many have turned around recently and asked the question, is there a need for us to perform taqlid or no? You find therefore that there are 4 different camps which have emerged on the question of taqlid. The first are a sincere group. They ask the question, what is the history and evolution of taqlid? When they ask that question, they have no ulterior motive. They are asking sincerely that for 1,000 years since the Imam went into occultation, what is the evolution of taqlid? What has happened with the ulama? How did a mujtahid become a marja? How was a risala written? When was a risala written? When did we have to follow one marja? What's the difference between the akhbari and the usuli? When this first group of people ask the question, they are very sincere. They ask from the purity of their heart. They just simply want to know in order that they're able to understand the history of scholarship. The second group of people are those who are frustrated by modern day discussions on taqlid and ijtihad. They are the ones who turn around and say, how do I know that these ulama know what I am living? If the ulama or the scholars or the maraji are living in the Middle East, how do they know what I am facing in my life? How do they know what I face in East Africa? How do they know what I face in Pakistan? How do they know what I face when I'm in London, or when I'm in the banks of America, or the law firms of Paris? They are sitting in Najaf, or they're sitting in Qom, and the world of Najaf and the world of Qom is far away from our world. Therefore they turn around with a sense of frustration, that they feel that them doing taqlid is a waste of time. They turn around and they say, I prefer to follow my own opinion on this issue. I can use my own common sense, and I can reach my own conclusions. That's the second group. A third group are the group that rely on marja'iyah for their mortgages. They are the ones who turn around and will defend taqlid till death. Why? Because their family heritage relies on taqlid. Yes? Their grandsons can't get jobs without taqlid. Their surnames will never live without taqlid. Their mortgages can never be looked after without taqlid. As in that person whose son is a high school dropout, he needs these institutions to remain alive, because that son of him only relies on the surname. Therefore, when the son relies on the surname, the son then turns around and defends taqlid till death. Not out of sincerity, but because taqlid and the system that surrounds it looks after his paycheck. As in, without taqlid, that person cannot have a paycheck. Taqlid and the issue of the scholars and the issue of marja'iyah is what looks after his paycheck. He has nothing else to offer. His granddad was famous. His great-granddad was famous. He's probably not even worth sneezing at, let alone looking at. But you find that such a person has to protect the system. Why? Because the system looks after his pocket. There's a hierarchy, excuse the pun, and that looks after their pockets. That's number 3. Number 4, there's a fourth group of people. Who are they? They are the ones who have read hadiths which say to them, beware of taqlid. Yes? There are hadiths from Imam al-Sadiq, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh. Allahumma salli ala. There are hadiths from Imam al-Sadiq which begin, beware of taqlid. Those who adorn themselves in it shall be destroyed. When a person reads a hadith like this, an authentic hadith, beware of taqlid, that's how the hadith begins. When a person reads this, he's like, why am I doing taqlid? These mujtahids are just fallible human beings. Why do I need someone between me and Allah? The 12 Imams left us books of knowledge. They left us, for example, Al-Kafi of Shaykh Al-Kulaini. They left us Man La Yahdaru Al-Faqih of Saduq. They left us Tahdib Al-Ahkam or Al-Istibsar of Tusi. Wasail Al-Shi'a of Al-Hurr Al-Amili. Mustadrak Al-Wasail, for example. Bihar Al-Anwar. The books are here. Why do I need to resort to following someone? I can go like Man La Yahdaru Al-Faqih says, every man is his own lawyer. I can go and be my own lawyer. Why do they need to tell me when the moon is? I can follow the moon with my own common sense. Why do they need to tell me how I interact in business? I have my own common sense. And they don't need to get involved because the hadith says, beware of taqlid. Imam al-Sadiq says, beware of taqlid. Those who adorn themselves in it shall be destroyed. Therefore, you find today in the Muslim world, there is much confusion as to the issue of taqlid. And mind you, that confusion is not just in our school, yes? Ahl al-Sunnah, there are major debates concerning taqlid in Ahl al-Sunnah. Originally, Ahl al-Sunnah had the gates closed. Abu Hanifa, Malik, Shafi'i, and Ahmad bin Hanbal. The Wahhabis emerged and said, why is everyone blindly following them? Why don't we reform? No one should blindly imitate a human being in Islam. You follow Rasulullah and his teachings, and that's all you should be doing. Today you find therefore many of our youth in the world are asking, why should we do taqlid? What's the point of taqlid? And the only way we're going to be able to answer this is by understanding the history of the issue of taqlid. Because unfortunately, if you were to ask many people in the Shia world today, you ask them, what is taqlid? They say following a scholar. If you ask them, when did this begin? Many will not be able to tell you. Many believe mujtahid and marja' is the same thing. They don't know how to differentiate between the two. Many ask the question, why do I need to follow one? Many ask the question, how do I verify who's the most learned? Many ask the question, are the mujtahids actually knowing what we're facing in our lives? And I think all of these are valid questions. Why? Because you'll have some people in our communities, what will they say? There'll be some people in our communities who will say, you can't discuss these things. You say to them, why? They say, these are representatives of the 12th Imam. Okay, nobody denied this, but why can't I discuss? No, but these are the representatives of the 12th Imam. Hold on. Why can I not discuss? Aren't I a free thinker? Am I not allowed to question? Am I not allowed to discuss? The main defenders of taqlid and marja'iyah, no doubt, are the ones who are being looked after by the system. Otherwise, it's a system that has evolved over time, and we respect the evolution, and there is no harm discussing the evolution. I'm not questioning Ja'far as-Sadiq, that's an issue. I am questioning a normal human being who has served the religion of Islam. You want to question an Imam of Ahl al-Bayt? That you can never do. You want to question someone who's fallible? There is no harm. A person needs to learn about why we imitate ulama. And the ulama want us to learn about imitation. Our maraja', may Allah lengthen their lives, all of them want us to learn about this issue. But sadly, those who surround do not want people to think. Those who surround do not allow you to be inquisitive, allow you to reflect. Whereas the reality is that the maraja' themselves want you to elaborate, want you to seek reform, but through understanding the history of taqlid. Therefore, I'd like to discuss taqlid in the following stages. Number one, are we allowed to do taqlid in usul al-din or no? And what was Kulayni's opinion as well as Mufid on this area? Number two, why does Imam al-Sadiq say beware of taqlid? And which taqlid does he refer to? And which mujtahids originated from Imam al-Sadiq's lessons alayhi salam? Number three, when the 12th Imam went into occultation, were there mujtahids or no? And when did mujtahids begin? And how does this relate to the word ijtihad? Number four, how pivotal are Allam al-Hilli and Muhaqqiq al-Hilli on explaining why taqlid is to be done? Number five, how did the Safavid Empire ensure that the marja' became the sole marja' in the sense of representative of the Safavid ruler? And how did following one marja' only begin 160 odd years ago? Number six, and of the utmost importance, do the maraja' seek reform or no? And what are their debates on reform of marja'iyah? Number seven, and vital for all of us to understand, can a person follow more than one marja' or no? Number eight, if maraja' have differences of opinion, does that mean we should question taqlid or no? Number nine, how powerful is marja'iyah in the followers of Ahl al-Bayt's world today? And number 10, which of the scholars of Ahl al-Bayt had stories in relation to Abu Abdullah which changed and transformed their life. Let's try and examine this and seek to dissect this topic in complete depth. The first question that arises is, can taqleed be done in usul al-din? What do we mean? We know usul al-din are 5 and furu' al-din are 10. When it comes to the furu' al-din, salah, saum, hajj, zakat, khums, amr bil ma'ruf, nahi an al-munkar, at-tawalli, at-tabarra, jihad. But when it comes to usul al-din, what are the usul? Tawheed, nubuwa, qiyamah, without a doubt the usul of the deen, and the usul of the madhab, adala and imama with them. Someone asked the question, taqleed, can it be done in usul al-din? According to many of the early scholars, taqleed cannot be done in usul al-din. Someone says, what do you mean? Can I follow a scholar when it comes to my understanding of Allah? Or do I have to make my own rational inquiry? Can I follow a scholar when it comes to understanding prophethood? Or do I have to also make my own rational inquiry? Can I follow a scholar when it comes to qiyamah? Or do I have to do my own rational inquiry? You find some turned around and said, when you ask them, why do you believe in God? Some turned around and said, my father. Others turned around and said, my community. Others turned around and said, my marja. None of these are enough. When you come to usul al-din, you don't do taqleed. You yourself have to rationally go and find the answers. Why? Usul al-din focuses on the pillars of religion. Furu' al-din focuses on what? Focuses on the laws of the religion, correct? The pillars of the religion, if I myself do not do rational inquiry alongside traditional inquiry, then what happens? What will happen is that I will not have that firm certainty in what I believe in. Because we know the usul is what gives us certainty in this world. Where do we get it from? Believing in God, but knowing how to prove God exists. Some of our youth today, they ask, what is this belief in God? I want to be an atheist. I don't find the answers for believing in God. If now my son or my daughter comes up to me and they ask me about God, can I turn around to them and say, slap? You know, when we were younger, if we asked, where is Allah, we'd get slapped. Today you try and do that with the youth will tell you, listen, I will ask any question I want, you can't stop me. Islam didn't want the youth or the Muslim to be someone who only follows because the scholars follow. Islam wanted rational inquiry. Go out and ask. Go out and reflect. Why do we believe in God? I don't just believe in God because my mom says there's a God. I don't just believe in God because Islam says there's a God. I have to go and ask questions. For every effect, there's a cause. What is the first cause? For everything designed, there must be a designer. There needs to be that rational inquiry. There needs to be that rational discussion. In our communities today, when our sons come to ask us, Dad, I don't believe in Asma. I don't believe the Imams are ma'soom. Can I force him to believe the Imams are ma'soom? No way. My son or my daughter has to rationally inquire, rationally discuss with the traditions until they reach the conclusion that the Imams are ma'soom. Because you have some people who come and say, you know what, I want to force my children to believe that all the prophets are ma'soom. No, you can't force them. Usul al-din, you can't just have someone say, I believe in Asma because the Imam said that they are ma'soom. No, the Imam said, use our traditions, but also use the aql Allah gave you, correct? That's why ilm al-kalam, they say there are 2 stages of theology in Islam. Aql and naql. Aql, using your rational inquiry. Naql is looking at the traditions of Ahl al-Bayt on the issue. If today our sons are forced to believe in Allah, our daughters are forced to believe in imamah, they will grow up, their faith will break at the slightest doubt. There are many today in the Muslim world, the moment an atheist gave a good lecture on YouTube, you find them shaky. Why? Because the community said to them, you have to believe in God, and if you don't believe in God, you'll go to hellfire. Relax, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? Is that the way you talk to someone? If you don't believe in Allah, you go to hell? Ask them. Everything has a creator. If now, for example, this watch, would you say it came by accident? No. Therefore, the human being, you say came by a set of accidents, talk to them. The Imams of Ahl al-Bayt loved it when atheists would come and talk to them. Why? Because the Imam didn't want someone having blind faith. Yes? The Imams wanted people with rational, inquisitive minds. You don't do taqleed on usul al-din. Why do you believe in imama? Because mommy believes in imama. Why do you believe in imama? Daddy believes in imama. Why do you believe in nubuwah? My grandpa believes in nubuwah. That person, if I give him one doubt in his religion, he'll break. Correct or no? Whereas a person who has studied, thought, debated, discussed with rational inquiry, you find that person's iman is so strong. A person came to Imam al-Baqir salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. A person came to Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. When he came to Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, he asked him, where is God? Yes? Some of our children may ask, where is God? Do you know what Imam replied? Imam didn't reply, astaghfirullah, you can't ask such questions. Imam replied by saying, show me where he is not, I'll show you where he is. Yes? Another person came to Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. He said to him, when did God become? As in, when did God get born? Imam al-Baqir replied, show me a time he wasn't, I show you when he became. Yes? The Imams did not turn around to their followers and say, haram, astaghfirullah, how dare you question God? How dare you question 12th Imam? How dare you question nubuwah? No, they said talk, discuss, inquire. Let that rational inquiry be the basis of your discussion. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Raise the volume a little. Let the rational inquiry be the basis of your discussion. Therefore, Shaykh al-Mufid and Shaykh al-Kulayni said what? Taqleed in usul al-din is not allowed. Usul al-din, don't come thinking on Qiyamah you're going to come, someone's going to ask you about Allah and the belief in Allah. You can't turn around and say, oh, the mosque said we have to believe in Allah, that's why I believe in Allah. No, you have to prove. In the day of Qiyamah, they're going to ask you about imama. You can't turn around and say, I believe in imama because my mosque believed in imama. Not at all. You yourself have to be the one who's understood imama logically, rationally, as well as traditionally. Yes, there have been certain ulama recently who have said, you can do taqleed in usul al-din. Yes? But on the general, in the history of the followers of Ahl al-Bayt, they say in usul al-din, what? You cannot do taqleed. Someone asks, okay, I can't do taqleed in usul al-din, so therefore I can only do taqleed in furu' al-din. Yes? I follow a scholar in fiqh when it comes to fasting, when it comes to prayer, when it comes to hajj, when it comes to zakat, no problem. So why does Imam al-Sadiq say beware of taqleed? In Pakistan today, do you know how many of these people go around? They give out booklets in Pakistan. Taqleed is not allowed. Taqleed is wrong. Many of the youth email me, they say to me, Sayyid Ammar, there's a hadith of Imam al-Sadiq, it says beware of taqleed, and they are right, there is this hadith. Imam al-Sadiq did say, beware of taqleed, whoever adorns himself in it shall be destroyed. Allah said in the Quran, they took their rabbis and they took their monks and their rabbis as lords besides Allah. Definitely they did not pray, nor did they fast. They made permissible that which is forbidden, and they made forbidden that which is permissible, and the people emulated them, obeyed them without realizing. It's hadith of Imam al-Sadiq. Imam al-Sadiq, when he says beware of taqleed, someone turns around and says, wait, I've been doing taqleed all my life. I followed Sayyid al-Khu'i, and then I followed Sayyid al-Sistani. And now you're telling me Imam al-Sadiq said beware of taqleed? Yes, Imam did say beware of taqleed. Which taqleed? Beware of the taqleed of a person who uses his ijtihad when an Imam of Ahl al-Bayt is present in his time. What do I mean? When a ma'soom is around, can someone come and say, in my opinion, this is the ruling? No. Why? When Rasulullah said, inni tarikun fikum al-thaqalain, Kitab Allah wa ithrati ala bayti. Rasulullah said, I leave behind for you two weighty things, the Quran and my Ahl al-Bayt. The Quran is ma'soom, that means whatever is next to it is ma'soom, true? The Quran is ma'soom, Ahl al-Bayt are ma'soom. The Quran is a source of guidance. Ahl al-Bayt are a source of guidance. The Quran is a leader. Ahl al-Bayt are a leader. When Imam al-Baqir and Imam al-Sadiq are alive, can I follow anyone except them? Can someone living in their time say, this is Ja'far al-Sadiq's opinion, but this is my opinion? Can you do that or no? Why not? Because Imam al-Sadiq's words are the words of Imam al-Baqir. And Imam al-Baqir's words are the words of whom? Imam al-Sadiq's words are the words of Imam al-Baqir. And Imam al-Baqir's words are the words of Imam Zayn al-Abidin. And Imam Zayn al-Abidin's words are the words of Imam al-Hussein. And Imam al-Hussein's words are the words of Imam al-Hassan. Imam al-Hassan's words are the words of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen's words, and all of them are the words of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli. Therefore, when someone comes and says, Imam al-Sadiq says, beware of taqlid, yes. Doing taqlid of someone when an imam is alive, beware of that taqlid, yes. Because those who try to say this is about our mujtahid, no. Because the hadith says, beware of taqlid. Those who adorn themselves in it got destroyed. They did not fast, nor did they pray. They made permissible what is forbidden, and forbidden what is permissible. That cannot be our mujtahids, correct or no? They fast, they prayed, they wouldn't make permissible that which is forbidden. Then who does it refer to? It refers to those imams living in the time of Imam al-Sadiq who would give opinions saying Ja'far al-Sadiq said this and I say this. No one can do that. No one, when an imam is present, you can't do taqlid. If today 12th imam is present and they told you there's a marja' taqlid, who would you go to? You'd go to 12th imam, correct? Because the original nas is present. You don't go to someone else unless the imam has sanctioned that someone else. Yes? If the imam has said in Mustadrak al-Wasail and Wasail al-Shia, there are certain hadiths where imams tell people who to go to if they cannot access the imams. If an imam tells you to go to someone, then you can go to that person when the imam is living, yes? If imam tells me, like Imam al-Sadiq told people, go to Abu Basir. If Imam al-Baqir tells me, go to Abban bin Taghlib. Imam al-Rada tells me, go to Yunus bin Abd al-Rahman. If an imam tells me to do taqlid of someone, because you know in those days, there was no internet, I go to a website and I type my question, correct? In those days, how was it? In those days, you're lucky to have someone in your area, and you go to that person. Therefore, if an imam tells me to follow someone's verdict in my local area, that's the only time I can take the verdict of someone when an imam is alive. Otherwise, if a ma'soom is alive, can I take the verdict of a non-ma'soom when a ma'soom is alive? No, I can't. What if someone today comes and says, I believe Taraweeh is a good bid'ah. That's my ijtihad. Or someone says, Hayya ala khayr al-amal shouldn't be an adhan. What should be an adhan is as-salatu khayrun min al... No. If a person after Rasulullah gives an opinion, can I follow his ijtihad ahead of Rasulullah? No. Because Rasulullah is the nas. That person's using their ijtihad. No one can use their ijtihad in the face of a ma'soom, yes? In the sense that when a ma'soom is saying something, that person can't come and say, this is a good bid'ah, correct? They asked the person, why are you allowing Taraweeh in Shahr Ramadan? He said, this is a good bid'ah, bid'ah hasana. Okay, you have given your ijtihad. How could you give ijtihad when Rasulullah gives an opinion? When Rasulullah says, a salah which is wajib cannot be done in jama'ah, except salat al-istisqa. How can a person, a salah which is mustahab cannot be done in jama'ah, yes? Except salat al-istisqa. A salah which is wajib, yes, you can do in jama'ah. A salah which is mustahab cannot be done in jama'ah. The nawafil of Shahr Ramadan cannot be done in jama'ah. But when the second Khalifa came, he said, this is bid'ah hasana. This is a good bid'ah. I remember in Saudi Arabia once the person telling me, you people, you Shia, you're the people of bid'ah. I said, no, we're the people of bid'ah hasana. Yes? We're the people of good bid'ahs. He's like, what do you mean good bid'ah? I said, you know, there was a Khalifa who said one day that Taraweeh has a good bid'ah, so we are the people of the good bid'ah. He said, no, bid'ah is all the same. all the bid'ahs go to hell. I said then there are good bid'ah and bad bid'ah and middle bid'ah and strong bid'ah and so on, yes? You therefore find that when in Pakistan today, my dear Pakistani brothers, and India as well, when people are coming to you showing you a hadith, don't just read the hadith without knowing the context of the hadith. If Imam al-Sadiq says beware of taqlid, Imam al-Sadiq when he says beware of taqlid is saying when there's a ma'soom and someone else comes and says I am the Imam, yes? Let me give you an example. Abu Hanifa, there were people who were going to his classes. Imam said, I hear that you give verdicts. He said, yes. He said, on what basis do you give verdicts? He said that I use qiyas, yes? I use analogical deduction to give my verdict. So Imam said, can I ask you a question? Which is greater, murder or adultery? Abu Hanifa said, murder. He said, why? He said, because if you kill one human being, it's as if you've killed the whole of humanity. Imam said, how comes for murder you need a couple of witnesses, but for adultery you need 4 then? Then Imam looked at him. He said to him, oh Abu Hanifa, can I ask you a question? He said, yes. He said, oh Abu Hanifa, which is greater, fasting or prayer? Imam said, Abu Hanifa turned around and he said, prayer. He said, why? He said, because if your prayers are accepted, all your other acts are accepted. And if your prayers are rejected, all your other acts are rejected. So Imam said, how comes a woman has to repeat her fasts when she's in her monthly cycle, but not her prayers? Then Imam said, oh Abu Hanifa, don't give opinions from yourself. This is what shaitan does when he said, I am created from fire and he is created from clay. When a ma'soom is present, no one is allowed to do what? Have their own ijtihad. Unless the ma'soom has given the ijazah. Yes? If the ma'soom gave the ijazah to Abu Basir, ma'soom gave the ijazah, Aban bin Taghlub, ma'soom gave the ijazah, Yunus bin Abd al-Rahman, ma'soom gave the ijazah to, for example, Mu'adh bin Muslim. Yes, those people, Imams have said, they have ijazah to give our verdicts in their local area. If, however, someone hasn't got an ijazah, then they cannot do ijtihad when an Imam of Ahl al-Bayt is alive. Therefore, when it comes to taqlid, when did taqlid really begin? Well, we said, in the time of the Imams, people would follow the Imams, yes? When the ghaibah of the 12th happened, you find that from that time people ask, when did this area of mujtahids begin? And the opinion on taqlid. You find on the origin, many people assume that taqlid began straight after the 12th Imam went into ghaibah, correct? If I ask many people, how long has marja'iyya been around? They say to me, it's been around since the 12th Imam went into ghaibah. How long have mujtahids been around? Yes? They say when 12th Imam went into ghaibah, that's when mujtahids, that's when they've been around, from that long. Mujtahid means someone who exercises a struggle to find a ruling, especially on a new issue which they cannot find in the hadiths of Ahl al-Bayt, correct? A mujtahid uses the Quran, uses the Sunnah, uses the Aql, uses the ijma' of the opinions of Ahl al-Bayt, the consensus of their opinions, to come to a ruling. On a new issue, if they look for that new ruling, because there's a new issue that has emerged. If it's on new issues, then did mujtahids begin as soon as the 12th Imam went into ghaibah? No, they didn't. What happened after 12th Imam went into ghaibah? There were no mujtahids after 12th Imam went into ghaibah. After 12th Imam went into ghaibah, the people of knowledge were known as the ones who narrate our ahadith, the ones who narrate the akhbar, yes? Many of you would have heard of the school called the akhbaris, correct or no? The akhbaris, who are they? They say, listen, at the beginning of the ghaibah of the 12th Imam, there couldn't have been mujtahids. Why? There are no new issues. Imam al-Askari was just alive. I can go to his hadiths and he'll give me an answer, correct or no? When Imam went to ghaibah, was there issues like genetic engineering, IVF, abortion, for example? Were there issues like the issues of fiqh today? When there are issues of fiqh today, I need a mujtahid, because a mujtahid exercises jihad to find what could be a ruling, correct? When the 12th Imam went into ghaibah, there's issues like genetic engineering at the time or no? Is there genetic engineering in Baghdad in 329? Is there genetic engineering? Is there DNA testing? Is there IVF treatment? Is there or no at the time? Of course there's not. So is there mujtahids? No mujtahids at the time. What began in the ghaiba? People who narrate the traditions, that's it. At the beginning of the ghaiba of the 12th Imam, there was no such thing as mujtahid, no such thing as marja'. These are later evolutions, and I beg all of you, mark the word evolution. Because when you're studying marja'iyya, the key word under marja'iyya is evolution. The moment you realize that the hierarchy of Islamic authority is open to evolution, then you're able to discuss marja'iyya with much more freedom than you thought. 12th Imam goes into ghaiba, yes? When he goes into ghaiba, there's no need for me to look for a mujtahid. Why? The hadith books are there, and hence Shaykh al-Saduq wrote his famous book, Man la yahdarahu al-faqih. Every man is his own faqih. Every man is his own faqih. Meaning what? The books of fiqh are there. The imams have just gone into ghaiba. You don't have any new issues. If I fly Boeing 747 between Paris and Singapore, what's the direction of Qibla on the plane? Was that there in Baghdad in 329 or no? If my son wants to smoke ecstasy, for example, or wants to take all of these drugs of today, was that a question that was there? No. The questions were simple, basic questions. The water out of the well, how much is the qur water and wudu? What is the issue of my camel is in my farm? How much zakat do I pay on the cattle? Nothing new. So there are no mujtahids. There are narrators of traditions. After a few hundred years, suddenly, when there's a gap between 11th Imam and few hundred years, new issues have come up which never were there in the time of the Imams. Now you had what were known as mujtahids. People who went through jihad, struggle to find what could be Allah's opinion, not what is Allah's opinion. Please understand this line carefully. A mujtahid doesn't tell you what's Allah's opinion. He tells you what could be Allah's opinion. If he tells you what's Allah's opinion, we might as well say there are more than 14 ma'sumin, correct or no? No mujtahid ever says, this is definitely Allah's law. They say from our struggle through the books of fiqh, through the hadiths, this is what could be Allah's law, yes? Therefore, who were the first mujtahids? The first mujtahids weren't Saduq, weren't Tusi, weren't Mufid. The first of them was Alam al-Hilli and Muhaqqiq al-Hilli. According to many of the ulama, yes, some give other names, but you find the first were whom? Alam al-Hilli. And Alam al-Hilli is the one who talked of the importance of taqlid of the mujtahids. Why? A few hundred years earlier, I could pick up a book, I go to the section on fasting, I see the hadith, I can follow myself, correct? When things became more complex, when things started to become more modern, when new issues began to arise which weren't in the time of the Imams, then a group had to be called who were mujtahids, who were able to use the Quran, use the Sunnah, use intellectual principles, and then come to a conclusion on a ruling, yes? Alam al-Hilli is the one who told us about why we should do taqlid of mujtahids. And what reasons did they give? The first reason was the Quran. What does the Quran say? Please understand this, because today people are asking me, what's the proof of us doing taqlid? Yes? The first proof is the Quran. Surah 21, verse number 7. The ayah I quoted at the beginning of the lecture. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Allah says, ask the people of reminder if you do not know. Yes? The Quran asks us that when there are people of ilm, yes, the people, they call them ahl al-dhikr. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. I don't know an opinion in fiqh. I haven't been to law school. I don't know the opinion on fasting or on traveling. Do I pray qasr? Don't I pray qasr? The first opinion is, the Quran says to you, when you are not a student of religion and you don't know, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Surah 21 verse number 7. The second ayah of the Quran Allama al-Halli used to prove the taqlid has to be done is the most famous ayah on fiqh in the Quran. Surah 9 verse 122. This ayah gives you the role of the faqih, the role of the jurist. The first role is what? يَتَفَقَّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. The second role is what? يُنذِرُ قَوْمَهُم. Please understand, many of the soldiers of Islam went to the battle of Tabuk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, don't all of you go. Let there be a ta'ifa of you, a group of you, who remain behind to teach the people fiqh. Tafaqquh meaning what? Not just law, a deeper understanding of religion. Today, if I mention to you fiqh, what do you think straight away? Law, correct? Quran, fiqh, yafqahun, tafaqquh means a deeper understanding. This ayah, what did it say? The Muslims who have gone to war, yes, there's a group of them who have gone to war. Don't all of you go for jihad. Some of you should stay behind, and your role is to gain a deeper understanding of religion. يَتَفَقَّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. And second role is what? يُنذِرُ قَوْمَهُم. To warn their nation when they return towards their nation. Many of the ulama today use this ayah in their discussions concerning the first proof of taqlid, which is what the Quran says, when you do not have knowledge, go to the people of knowledge. Secondly, the Quran says there should be a group of people who gain a deeper understanding of fiqh. That's the first area. They say the Quran says. Secondly, they show you in the world of hadith. The famous hadith of the 12th Imam, he says, when it is the period of the ghaibah, go to the narrators of our traditions. For what? They are my proof over you, and I am the proof of Allah over them. Famous hadith, yes? To Ishaq bin Yaqub, through the second Safir, what does he say? He says, go to the narrators. Notice, Imam is not saying go to the mujtahids, go to the maraja, correct? Because there is no mujtahid or marja there. In the period of the ghaibah, when I go on ghaibah, go to the narrators of our traditions. They are my proof over you, and I am Allah's proof over them. Therefore, at the beginning of the ghaibah, there were who? Narrators. Then Allama al-Halli and his group, it became known as mujtahids. The first proof was the Quran. Second was the hadith. The third proof for taqlid, which Ayatollah al-Khomeini in some of his discussions says is more important than the rest, is the rational proof, which is what? The rational proof is what? I now go to university to study law. When I am only an undergraduate student in law school, isn't it rational that I follow the dean of the law school? I'm just an undergrad, correct? I've not finished my LLB, I've not finished my LLM, I've not done a PhD in law. Is it rational that I come and say, I don't need to follow the dean of the law school, I'm a first year law student? People will laugh at you, correct or no? They'll be like, are you okay today or no? You'll be like, no, this dean of the law school can't teach me anything. I am the first year student in law. Let me give you another example. I'm in medicine, first year out of 6 in medical school. Can I walk around and say, I don't need to follow the dean of the medical school because I'm in the first year? People say, hold on, the dean has done 10, 12 years of studies to become the dean. No, I don't need to, I'm first year, I can follow my own opinions in medicine. Do you even know any of the terms in medicine yet or no? No, but I can think about it, I could do my own research. No. The person who's the dean of the medical school, it's rational. When I don't have ilm on an area, I do taqlid of the one who does, correct? I do taqlid of the expert. The third opinion of Allama al-Halli, forget the Quran, forget the hadiths. Rationally, if you yourself have not studied law, then follow someone who has. I've seen so many come and say, I don't need to do taqleed. You're like, no, no, why? I can use my own common sense and I can read my own books. Have you ever studied Arabic grammar? No. No, you've never studied Arabic grammar? No, not at all. So you haven't done nahu and sarf and balagha? None of them? No, I haven't. So excuse me, if you haven't done Arabic grammar, how are you going to explain the hadith of Ahl al-Bayt without one day of Arabic grammar in your knowledge? They'll look at you, they'll stare. Okay, no problem. You've done tafsir of the Quran? No. You've done hadith studies? No. So if you've done none of these, can you tell me why you don't need to do taqleed? Actually, wait. Come here. Come next to me. Come. I bring them. I say, this is Bihar al-Anwar. Explain every hadith in Bihar al-Anwar for me. How many volumes is Bihar al-Anwar? 110 only. Not many. Yes? Or I tell a person, listen, I'm going to bring you Wasa'il al-Shia. Yes? I want you to explain to me what the following 6 words mean in Wasa'il al-Shia. Person will look at you and say, what's Wasa'il al-Shia? Habibi, you just said to me you don't need to do taqleed and you don't even know the basic books of fiqh. How do you not do taqleed when you don't even know? If you ask many Shia in the world today, if you were to ask them, what's the most famous books in Shi'ism? Yes? A Shia knows Sunni books more than they know their own books. Ask, what's the most famous books of Ahl Sunnah? What would you say to me? What's the first most famous? Bukhari. Then, look, Masha. The Shia, when it comes to our books, what's the most famous? Then, there you go. We're having 2 answers out of a crowd of how many? Al-Kafi, man la yahdarahu al-faqih. Tahdhib al-ahkam, al-istibsar. I remember one person coming to me saying, Nahj al-Balagha. I mean, Nahj al-Balagha is not a book of fiqh, yes? You came to the person, you say, excuse me, you don't do taqleed? No. What's the most important books of hadith? I don't know. So how are you not doing taqleed? How do you expect to do your own taqleed when you don't even know the names of the most important books? You get these people coming out from the middle of nowhere. They come out, they say there's no need for mujtahids, no need for taqleed. I can do my own taqleed, we don't need mujtahids. You ask them to name you the main books of hadith, they don't even know. You ask them the laws of nahu and sarf and balagha, they don't know. You ask them about what is a hadith which is sahih and a hadith which is hasan and a hadith which is muwattaq and a hadith, they don't know. You ask them all of these questions, by the end they're like, I think I need to do taqleed. Yes? So therefore, you had what? You had in the beginning narrators of hadith. Then you had after that mujtahids. And these mujtahids, depending on their time, how much respect they would earn would depend on the empire. As in, someone like Nasruddin al-Tusi with the Mongols, he would earn great respect. Majlisi under the Safawids would earn great respect. And really, the rise of marja'iyya is a rise. Someone asks, wait, what's the difference between mujtahid and marja'? Every marja' is a mujtahid. Not every mujtahid is a marja'. Do you know most followers of Ahl al-Bayt actually think they're the same? Every marja' is a mujtahid. Not every mujtahid is a marja'. A marja' is a mujtahid who publishes his risala. There are many mujtahids and a few maraja'. There are many who have done the studies to become a mujtahid where they don't need to do taqleed anymore, because when you're a mujtahid, you don't need to do taqleed because you've passed law school, correct? There are many mujtahids, but not many maraja'. A mujtahid, when he wants to publish his risala, becomes a marja', because then he is asking people to do his taqleed. Marja', following this one marja', when did it begin? You ask many people, they say to you, oh, it begins since 12th Imam. No. 160 odd years ago, we had to follow marja' for the first time, one marja'. When? Sheikh al-Ansari, 1850, let's say. That's the first time anyone had to follow one marja'. Before that, it was in locality. You live in Baghdad, there's a scholar there you go to. You live in Cairo, there's a scholar there. You live in Medina, there's a scholar there. Under the state, when the state, firstly the Safavid state, later the Qajar states, when they wanted the maraja' to get close to the ruler, so one looks after the other. One says the ruler is the shadow of Allah on earth. And the other says we need to oversee the way khums comes, give it all to one marja. 12th Imam said give your khums all to one marja. You see, when I touch on these issues, I'm touching with a pure heart and inquisitive mind. I'm only narrating to you what's there. I have nothing to benefit personally from anyone in this world except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The government, the marja would say they are the shadow of Allah on earth. The Safawids, some of their kings, would be called the shadow of Allah by some mujtahids. In turn, the Safawid or the Qajar would say, your khums, all of it, bring it to this man, one man. Ahl al-Bayt never said, you give your khums to one man. Do you know after 12th Imam what happened? People, do you know who they used to give their khums to at the beginning? They used to dig their khums in the ground. Bury it in the ground. When they buried it in the ground, why? Because they thought 12th Imam is going to return quickly, correct? Then after that they write in their wasiyah to their sons. After realizing he's not coming quickly, they wrote, if he does come, then we leave our khums as your wasiyah in the will. Until Allam al-Hilli in his time, and within works like Shara', you find that khums, instead of burying it in the ground, instead of putting it in your wasiyah for your kids, use it. Give khums to the people of your local area. Therefore, the idea that marja'iyah was the same the whole way is a fallacy. Marja'iyah, the idea of following one marja', is only 150 years old. Even many argue that the first risala, the way you had to follow a proper risala in the order that we have today, was in 1918. Less than 100 years ago was the first risala that we have. And do you know who the biggest proof is that marja'iyah is open for evolution? Ayatollah al-Khomeini. You see, if you discuss marja'iyah, someone will turn around and say, listen, you only have to follow one person, and no one is allowed to follow but the most learned. 1970, Ayatollah Khomeini gives a series of lectures in Najaf. He says, in the absence of the 12th Imam, the marja has as much authority as the 12th. In every area, political, social, legal. The series of lessons he gives are called the lessons on wilayat al-faqih. The guardianship of the faqih. To what extent does a jurist have authority in the eyes of God? Ayatollah al-Khomeini used certain ayahs of the Quran. For example, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul wa ulil amr. O you who believe, obey Allah, obey the Prophet, and obey the leaders from amongst you. He says the leaders from amongst you are the Imams. The Imams are not here anymore. Yes? So who is their representative? Their representative is the marja'. But what happens if there is an Islamic state and the 12th Imam has not returned? Who should be the authority in the state? The authority should be the faqih. It is his wilayah in the absence of the 12th Imam. Ayatollah al-Khomeini differed. Said no. Khomeini said yes. Khomeini said no. Absence of the 12th Imam, we have authority, but not in everything that the 12th has. Khomeini said everything. And that's why Ayatollah al-Khomeini could make certain decisions as a marja' which Najaf would never accept. Najaf says, marja', stay away from politics. And that's why many people are shocked by Sayyid Sistani recently. What he did was so un-Najaf. Najaf says, marja' out of politics. Khomeini says, not just in politics, rules politics. The clash was a respectable clash, not animosity. It was a clash of people at the top. One said, the marja' has complete authority in the absence of the 12th. The other said, no, partial authority, not complete. And that's why anyone who tells you marja'iyya cannot evolve, Ayatollah al-Khomeini put the spanner in the works. Because Ayatollah Khomeini said, 12th Imam went to Ghaiba, there were narrators. Evolution, number 1. Afterwards there were mujtahids. Evolution, number 2. Afterwards there were marjas. Evolution, number 3. Afterwards there's me. Evolution, number 4. And that's why those who say, can marja'iyya evolve? Yes, it can. Do they allow you to talk about its evolution? When Sayyid Ammar Naqshawani discusses marja'iyya, there are 2 types of people who listen to the lecture. There's the one who says, well, you know what, this is good food for thought, yes? I can go back and read more. And then there are those who are worried about their pockets. How dare you ruin my mortgage? I don't care about your mortgage. I have to answer to Allah on the day of judgment. Do not stagnate the school of Ahl al-Bayt from its evolution simply because you're being looked after. There are those who defend marja'iyya because they sincerely know what these maraja go through to serve us. And there are those who serve marja'iyya because it looks after their surname. The moment marja'iyya lets them down, they'll attack marja'iyya. Take it from me. And whatever they say, I am so certain in my heart of what I've said, I will face Allah on Qiyamah with this statement. And know that my Lord will not punish me for this statement. Because Ayatollah al-Khomeini done something magnificent. He thought out of the box. The box said, don't allow marja'iyya to evolve. He said, sorry, if there's a day we have a state. And 9 years later he had a state. Correct or no? No one else. And that's why all those who attack Khomeini later, the one thing I always say to them is what? You were silent when he wasn't in power about Islamic government. How comes you began to attack him when he was in power? It's not that we don't have misgivings about certain decisions. Let's put our hands up. There are certain decisions that were made where question marks have to be put. But the point of the lecture is what? Marja'iyya was always open for evolution and always open for reform. The ones who block you from thinking about its evolution are the ones benefiting from it. And that's why those who say that these maraja, they don't allow reform, they do. Ayatollah Bujdurdi came to Ayatollah Khomeini. He said to him, this stoning to death someone for zina, it's harming the image of Islam. You put a lady in the middle of the ground, halfway her body is in the sand and halfway her body is above the ground. The whole West sees you throwing rocks on the lady. You know, they say when a lady commits zina and the 4 witnesses have seen, you have to kill that lady, yes? He said to him, Ayatollah Khomeini, I know there's a punishment for zina, but he said there's another intellectual principle, which is that we should not bring harm to the image of Islam. Correct or no? So he said, maybe when Allah said, let half her body be under the ground and the rest of the half above, maybe Allah was trying to say, let her have a chance to escape. So Ayatollah Bujdurdi told Ayatollah Khomeini rescinded the opinion on the punishment through stoning. Likewise, you had others who had opinions, they reflected on them. For example, Ayatollah Sistani, Ayatollah Khoei's opinion originally on tawaf around the Kaaba, yes? Originally was what? The Shia are the worst sometimes in tawaf in Hajj, Wallah al-Azim. You see them, they're men protecting their woman. You know, the guy becomes a hero for a couple of days in his life, give him benefit of the doubt. They're men defending their woman, yes? You don't need to defend women. Women are stronger than us. Look at these Indonesian women, you've seen them? 4'1", they're pushing everyone away. We see people defending. Why? Because in our hadiths, when you do tawaf and hajj, you have to stay within maqam Ibrahim, correct? Ayatollah Sistani said if it is causing harm and damage, you're pushing people away, you're hurting people, go outside of maqam. There are reforms. Abortion, according to many, was completely wrong. Ayatollah al-Khamenei said, Ali Khamenei, he said if the child has thalassemia, yes, the blood disorder, and you are knowing it at a certain juncture, then you can abort the child. In other words, the reforms are happening. Someone says, do I have to follow only one marja'? Why only one? Why can't a person follow numerous maraja'? Yes, for practical reasons, you follow one. You're not going to read 8 risalas. But why can't you follow a number of maraja'? Why not? All of them are professors. Someone says, but World Federation, for example, said to us that we can only follow Sayyid Sistani. That's between you and World Federation, Habibi. Don't get me involved, yes? I'm looking at things technically. Technically, why do you only follow one? The maraja' themselves allow you in some rulings to follow other maraja'. Correct? They say to you, do ruju' to others. And further than that, there are people who are allowed, who say that there is no harm in you taking rulings from a number of maraja', not just one. Some call it the concept of tab'eed. That you could take. Someone says, who do I have to follow? Normally they say to them, you have to follow the most learned, correct? How do you verify who's the most learned? I honestly don't know. Who's the most learned? Do you know what they say to you? You have to ask Ahl al-Khibra, correct? The experts. I went to Ahl al-Khibra once. I said, Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam. Who's the most learned? They said to me, Ayatollah Wahid al-Khurasani. Oh, thank you. Alhamdulillah. I went to the neighbor next door. I said, who's the most learned? He said, Sistani. Oh, thank you. I went to a third person. He said, who's the most learned? He said, even if he's not the most learned, said, Ali Khamenei is Wali al-Faqih. You have to follow him. Thank you. I went to a fourth person. I said, who's the most learned from the experts? He said, nobody has written the notes of Sayyid al-Khu'i like Ishaq Fayyad. By the end of the day, I needed a very long sleep because my head was confused. One Ahl al-Khibra told me Sayyid al-Sistani. One told me Sayyid Ali Khamenei. One told me Wahid al-Khurasani. One told me Shaykh Ishaq Fayyad. When I looked at all of these, I began to wonder myself, you're telling me to ask the expert. The experts are giving me different names. Who's the most learned? In academia, the most learned is according to publishing, correct? How many publications you have. If it's according to publications today, then you would be surprised who would be the most learned. But I don't want to give names. So therefore, those who came and said to you, you have to follow the most learned, you say, excuse me, who's the most learned? They say, oh, ulama have said this person. We say, but these ulama said this person. And these ulama said this person. In other words, the most learned is not necessarily an infallible concept. Why not follow the learned, not necessarily the most learned? Some will say, well, in mantiq, I'm going to give you the following principles of mantiq and this. No, no, no. I want to follow scholars, people who are professors in law. Sayyid al-Sistani, I want to do his taqlid. But why can't I do taqlid of Shaykh Wahid al-Khurasani? Why can't I do taqlid of Nasr Makarim? Why can't I do taqlid, for example, of Sadiq Rawhani? Why can't I do taqlid of all of these? Someone tells us, says they have clashes with each other. Yes, there are clashes. No one can deny. Some say you can't talk about the clashes. Shh. You can't talk about the clashes. So when Sayyid Fadlallah is called a deviant, I can't talk. When Sayyid Fadlallah is called a deviant by Qom, a deviated deviant, we can't talk. When Sayyid Muhammad Shirazi is put under house arrest, I can't talk. Shari'at Madari is placed under house arrest, I can't talk. Someone says, no, but you can't. No, 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 no. We have to look at these clashes. Sadly, envy does occur between certain groups, and these things happen. And Rasulullah said, Afat al-ulama al-hasad. The disease of the ulama is envy. Try talking to me, I'll give you a few stories. The disease of the ulama is what? Is envy, no doubt. Someone says, but they give us all these different moon sighting rulings, or they give us different rulings. Pick up the risala of a marja. I guarantee you 99% of their risalas are the same. The one area there's a difference, alhamdulillah, there's a difference. Otherwise I'd be thinking no one's doing any new research, correct? If Sayyid al-Sistani could easily become a marja and copy Sayyid al-Khu'i and everything, correct or no? But Sayyid al-Sistani looks at the issue of the moon, and he says there are certain hadiths which say to me that I don't go with the opinion of the unity of the horizons. If now I go to a hospital, there's a doctor, I say to him I've got a heart problem, he gives me a prescription. When I go to another doctor, he gives me another prescription. That means they're wrong. One gives an opinion on fiqh according to his research. We are his muqallideen, meaning that we are not mujtahids. We've worn a glada, yes, a necklace around our neck on his rulings. He's promised us that he's done his research. The ulama have said he's done his research. I go to a doctor in a hospital, they give me two different opinions on a heart surgery. I don't say they're wrong, they're this, they're that. A mujtahid is only trying to show you what could be Allah's law. That's it. What could be Allah's law on that issue. That's why even in the Quran, Nabi Dawood and Nabi Sulaiman, they both give opinions on one issue. Allah says we took Sulaiman ahead of Dawood. That means they were wrong. Nabi Sulaiman in the Quran gave an opinion, Nabi Dawood gave an opinion. Does that mean that Nabi Dawood was wrong and Sulaiman? Allah said we preferred Sulaiman's opinion over Dawood. Ya Allah, but these are Anbiya, Ma'soomeen. How could they give different opinions? No. One's opinion may be right, the other opinion may be closer to the truth, or more acceptable for the period. What do I mean? I mean when we're looking at the issue of taqlid, there are so many different facets, so many different junctures. And for those who tell you you can't discuss taqlid, you can't discuss marja'iyya, no you can. Mutahari and Sadr had many opinions about how marja'iyya could be reformed, how taqlid could be developed. And for those of you who think it's easy for a person just to become a marja' or a mujtahid, you can go and attend in Hawza the class of Bahith Kharij, correct? When you go to Hawza seminary in Qum Najaf, what's the first lesson you do? First you go through the Muqaddamat, then you go to Sutuh, then you go to Bahith Kharij. Do you know what Bahith Kharij is? The marja' sits, he gives you his lessons. If you can debate him on his opinions, he'll give you ijazah for ijtihad. Any one of you in this hall is allowed to attend the Bahith Kharij class of the marja'. Whether you've got the bravery to debate him is a completely different story. Ayatollah Khomeini used to give Bahith Kharij, yes? Ayatollah Khomeini, many of the maraji' alive today are his students, yes? Sayyid Sistani, his student. Bashir Najafi, his student. Muhammad Sa'id Hakim, his student, yes? Ishaq Fayyad, his student. Wahid al-Khurasani, his student. All of them are Khomeini students. He used to sit, teach his class, and do you know what he used to say? Don't interrupt me. I never make mistakes. He's teaching you about a ruling. He gives you all the different reasons why the ruling is given. One ruling could take up to 379 pages. You have to bring a hadith, bring another. What if both of them say the same thing, but there's one word difference? How do you know which one to take? You have to then look at the chain of the narrators. You have to look at the Arabic grammar. You have to ask, was it done in taqiyya or not? You know what Sayyid al-Khuy used to say? I don't make a mistake when I give classes on fiqh. They say only a few interrupted him in his class. One of them was a young Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr. Used to interrupt Sayyid al-Khuy. Sayyid al-Khuy gives an opinion, Muhammad Baqir says, wait. You gave that opinion from Wasail al-Shi'a, volume 7, page 113, hadith number 3143. But in hadith number 3164, there's a word that contradicts hadith number 2981. Do you know what Ayatollah Khomeini had to end up saying to Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr? Stop interrupting me. The rest of them don't understand when me and you are talking. Ayatollah al-Khomeini, when he used to teach Bahith Kharij, anyone could attend his class. Do you know what Ayatollah Khomeini used to do? Ayatollah Khomeini in Bahith Kharij, he used to teach the class. He used to say, anyone who wants to interrupt me when I'm giving my research can interrupt me. If you're chatting nonsense when you interrupt me, I'll continue my class while you're talking. How daunting would it be to interrupt Khomeini in his class? If you're chatting nonsense when you're talking, I'll pick up the book and keep reading while you're talking. Meaning what? Meaning I know my subject so well, it's not anyone I give ijazah to. You have to be something special. And you look at these maraja, they've given years of their life to study in these seminaries. Is how great you are depending on how many years you've studied in Hausa? No way. No way. Hausa's not Harvard or Oxford. You don't need to be someone who's got the best grades to go to Hausa. You could be Maulana's son who has no job. Here, take one. You could be someone with a big surname but as stupid as anything. Here, take this. Just go to Hausa for a few years. Your surname will get you a job. Or you could be a genius. But when someone comes to me and says, do you know how great this speaker is? I'm like, how great? They're like, he was in Hausa for 19 years. I'll be like, he must have a problem if it's taken him 19 years to finish law. If my son went to school and 19 years later we went for his graduation, I'll be like, son, come here, do another job. Staying in Hausa for years to teach, that's a different story. But if it takes you 19 years to become a mujtahid, and that's why when people rate knowledge, they rate on how many years you've been in Hausa. There are some, they've been in Hausa 12 years. 6 of those 12, he's been taking people out on ziyarah. Ashra Zainabiyya, ziyarah. Muharram, ziyarah. Ramadan, ziyarah. Wiladat, holiday. Shahadat, holiday. Habibi, did you study or you were taking people for ziyarah? But these maraja, each one of them, served Al Muhammad and may continue to serve for the rest of their life. You look at someone like Sayyid al-Sistani, few of his words, how much of an effect they have on the world. How much of an effect? Just by him saying every follower of Ahlul Bayt must defend the shrines, everyone stood up. That even the chief of the United Nations, General Secretary himself says, what an honorable man I met. You look at Sayyid Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr giving his life away for the religion of Islam. And what's the common denominator between all of them? Their love for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, no doubt. Wallahi, you look at each and every one of them and you see that each one has a relationship with a different member of the martyrs of the 10th of Muharram. Ayatollah Burujurdi used to say in his wasiyah, bury me with my handkerchief. They used to say to him, why? He said, on it were the tears I shed for Aba Abdullah. Let my handkerchief be on my kafan. Yes? The same Ayatollah Burujurdi, when he became blind, he became blind. Mutahari said, our teacher became blind. In his dream, he saw someone telling him, pick up the dust under those who beat their chest for Zainab. Place it on your eyes and it will be cured. The next day he asked his students, when the people come out to do matam, take the dust under the feet. Believe me, the dust under the feet of an azadar can cure anything. They took the dust, they placed it on his eye. He saw like he had never seen, to the extent Mutahari said his vision in his last years was better than ours. But of those who had a special relationship, Nayini, yes? Ayatollah Nayini, may Allah bless his soul. He used to recite for Aba Abdullah as well as be a great scholar. What a combination. There is no honor like being an alim and giving majalis for Aba Abdullah. It's a unique combination. It rarely happens. Nayini narrates, I'd give majalis for Aba Abdullah and I'd have that closeness, and all my barakah was from the majalis of Aba Abdullah. But he said, I noticed one thing in my life. Of all of those of the 10th of Muharram who died, I believe Ali al-Akbar is the one that hurt him the most. They asked him why. He said, I was reciting a majlis. In that majlis, I finished the majlis, I went home, I fell asleep. And in my sleep, in my dream, I see Aba Abdullah lying on the ground, arrows all around his body. He said, I began to cry and cry. He said, the next day, what did I do? The next day I recited the Masa'ib of Ali al-Akbar alayhi salam. Yes. He said, when I recited the Masa'ib, I finished, I came back, I fell asleep. In my dream I saw the body of Abu Abdullah, this time with only 2 arrows on the body. So I looked towards Abu Abdullah. I said to him, Ya Abu Abdullah, what made the arrows go? He said, the tears of your listeners. When they heard your Masa'ib, they removed the arrows from my body from the 10th of Muharram that still pained me. Yes, all your tears. Each and every one of your tears, you azadars of Abu Abdullah, your tears help Abu Abdullah, wallah. But he said there are 2 arrows that never leave me. The arrow that hit Abbas and the one that hit Akbar. Yes? Those 2 arrows never leave Abu Abdullah. It's as if those 2 arrows hurt him forever. And I tell you, the death of Ali al-Akbar, the movement of Ali al-Akbar, those last moments of Ali al-Akbar, those movements without a doubt are the ones that used to hurt the most. And that's why, what do the narrations mention? The narrations mention that when Ali al-Akbar came towards his father, he said to him, Father, allow me to go. Do you know, normally Abu Abdullah would say, no, stay behind. The only person, he said, without anything, go ahead, was his son Ali al-Akbar. He knew that Ali al-Akbar had to go, and they began to embrace each other. They embraced, made Imam al-Hussein fall unconscious, yes? He was crying and crying in that embrace. And the narrations mention that Imam said to him, Ali, go back to your mother, yes? Ali al-Akbar went back to his mother Layla. He hugged his mother, and then he hugged his auntie Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam, yes? And then he came back to Imam al-Hussein. When he rode his horse, he was about to leave, Imam al-Hussein said to him, Ali, come back to me. He said, Dad, I've already bid you farewell. He said, my son, you don't know how it feels for a father to bid farewell to his son. Allahu Akbar. What did Abu Abdullah face on the 10th of Muharram? So he bid him farewell. He went out towards the battlefield. He said his famous lines. He fought as valiantly as anyone else on the 10th of Muharram. The narrations mention his mother Layla. This Masa'ib is for every mother listening today, yes? Because all of you are Laylas in your lives. The narration mentions Layla was by the tent. She couldn't see how well Ali was doing. So she looked towards Abu Abdullah. She said, Abu Abdullah, I can't see my son. How is he? He said to her, Layla, I see someone coming to strike him. So he looked towards her and said, Layla? She said, yes. He said to her, the dua of a mother is never rejected. So she looked at him, she said, Abu Abdullah, what do I say? So he said to her, recite a dua, Ali will come back to you. She recited the beautiful words, Ya Allah, you returned Ismail back to Hajar. You returned Yusuf back to Yaqub. Return my Ali back to me. Ali Akbar returned. He embraced his mother. The next line, he looked into the eyes of his father. He said to him, Father, are you proud of me? Abu Abdullah looked at him, he said, my son, I'm proud of you. He said, Father, just one thing. He said, what? He said, the thirst of Karbala is killing me. Imam al-Hussein took out his tongue. He placed it on the tongue of Ali al-Akbar. And then do you know what Ali al-Akbar said? Father, your tongue is drier than mine. How dry was the tongue of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. But then his father said to him, don't worry, in a few moments your grandfather Rasulullah will quench for you from the water of Kawthar. He went out, he fought until they struck him on the ground. He turned around and he said, Assalamu alayka Sayyidi Abu Abdullah. Abu Abdullah, this hurts the most. I find it difficult to narrate this. I'm very please be patient with me. You know, when he called his father, Imam al-Hussein ran out of the tent, but he went in the opposite direction. Sukaina called out, Father, why'd you go that way when Ali is there? He said, Sukaina, don't blame me. The death of your brother has blinded me. Allahu Akbar. The death of your brother has blinded me. He got got closer to Ali Akbar, Ali's hands were in the air saying salams ya Abu Abdullah, but he couldn't see the other hand. When he got closer, he removed the other hand, he saw the dagger in the chest. Do you know what the poets say? He turned towards the land of Najaf. Allah. He turned towards the land of Najaf. He said, oh my father, Amir al-Mu'mineen, you lifted the gates of Khaybar, but you never lifted a spear from the chest of your son. Come and help me take the spear out of the chest of Akbar. The next line, one of the Maraja narrated this to me, yes? Do you know what he said? He said, make sure you say this line. When the Imam was by Ali Akbar's body, he saw Ali Akbar's final thing. Do you know what he saw? He saw Ali Akbar smiling. And then he saw him cry. Allahu Akbar. He said to him, Ali, my son, why do you smile? He said, Father, I smile because I see my grandfather Rasulullah coming towards me. He said to him, Ali, my son, why do you cry? He said, Father, I cry because I see my grandmother Fatima al-Zahra in front of me. But my son, why do you cry? This is the line. He said, Father, for every tear that you shed, I see your mother slap her cheeks in front of me. Allahu Akbar. Bibi Fatima. Bibi Fatima is in every majlis, no doubt. There's some ladies you cry for them, especially Layla. Yes, Layla, do you know what she faced? When they walked in the streets of Kufa, the people were looking at the heads of Akbar and the heads of Qasim and the head of Abbas. And then a lady came and she said, I want to ask about that head over there. They said to her, whose head? She said, who's that young boy on that spear? Whoever his mother was, she was fortunate to have such a son. And all of a sudden she heard a voice say, that's my baby Akbar in front of me. This final line I'll give you. Layla, after Karbala, someone came to her. They said to her, have you recovered from Karbala? She said no. They said to her, is there a consolation after Akbar's death? And she said, the only consolation with Akbar's death is that I'll be able to dream about him. But for me to dream, I need to sleep. I don't think I'll sleep after the 10th of Muharram. مأتم الحسين يا حسين يا حسين